All right, what's going on, Lions family? Today is day 4 of free agency, and it's not really a lot to discuss. In my opinion, when it comes to free agency, I would say that the first 4 to 5 days is pretty much the most you're going to get. Of course, in the next week to come, when you get on day 12, 13, 15, there's still going to be some signings here or there. But the truth is that the main bulk of it is pretty much done after the first 5 days. So today being day number 4, there's really not a lot to talk about. The Lions signed a cornerback that I believe played for the Buccaneers last year, Christian Izien, I think is his name. I'm going to be very honest. I never heard of him, don't know who he is, but the Lions did bring him in. And speaking of the Buccaneers, they are losing Al-Qadim Muhammad. And it's not that even with his career sack year in 2025 that I thought that he would be the complement that the boys needed on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, is that the Lions need depth. And that's pretty much what I'm going to focus on now. We are talking about free agency day 4, but really I'm thinking about Brad Holmes and what his plan may be. And what gave me this idea was I was scrolling through Twitter, looking at some fellow Lions fans, what they were saying. And a lot of Lions fans are wondering what is actually the plan here. It doesn't seem like there's a plan to go for the Super Bowl, due to the fact that just like the Patriots this past season, the Lions will have a 4th place schedule. And we know that good teams that have a 4th place schedule, it puts them in a great chance to get the number 1 seed, to win their division, get the number 1 seed, and possibly make it to the Super Bowl. But Lions fans are scratching their heads and they're wondering what is really going on here. What is Brad Holmes really cooking? Because the Lions are losing players left and right. So let's go through this depth chart right here. Sports Illustrated did an article earlier today talking about the Lions depth. So let's look at the Lions depth chart and break it down a little bit, starting with quarterback. So we know who the starter is. Quarterback Jared Goff, with his backup being Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is coming back after Kyle Allen leaves and departs for the Bills, his former team. He was here 1 year, but the Lions are bringing Teddy Bridgewater back to be his backup. So that's not bad for the quarterback spot. Usually you're going to have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. They may pick up another quarterback and have that quarterback on the practice squad. I still think that they should go with a young quarterback late in the draft to be a project. At running back, as it stands as of today, Jahmyr Gibbs will be the starter, with newly signed Isaiah Pacheco as the backup, or being the Knuckles, or Taz, as he puts it, he wants to be called. Right now, the reserves are Siani Vaki, Jacob Sailors, and Jabari Small. I'm going to say that that's not a bad running back group. Running backs look okay. We know that Gibbs and Pacheco will get most of the carries. Next, we will look at the wide receiver depth. Now, just yesterday when I did a video, Tom Kennedy was gone, but they actually have brought him back and have signed Tom Kennedy. So the starters as of right now would be Amon St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Isaac Tesla as your starters, your 1 through 3. Now, Tesla must have really impressed a lot because they let Khalif Raymond go. And I thought that Khalif Raymond did a pretty good job filling in that number 3 spot last year. But it seems that the coaching staff is really looking at Tesla is taking that step up, with the backups being Dominic Lovett, Jackson Meeks, Tom Kennedy, and Malik Cunningham. Now, in my opinion, that's good depth to have 4 receivers after your top 3. But I do think that the Lions need to look at a receiver, either some guy in free agency who we're not thinking about, or possibly somebody in the draft who could also return kicks, because I think it's good to have a reliable number 4, and those guys right there are not exactly what I would want at number 4. Moving on to the tight ends. This is the first area on the offense where I think that depth is needed. Sam Laporta is the starter, with Brock Wright as the backup, and we have Zach Horton and Thomas Gordon as the reserves. Now, this is huge because offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, as I've mentioned before, he does run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, meaning that there are 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends on the field at all times, and he utilizes those tight ends. So the Lions could absolutely go for another blocking tight end who can also catch. So that is an area to look at. And remember, I'm looking at this, Lions fans, because they only have so much money they can spend left in free agency and only so many draft picks, and they have a lot of holes to fill. At the offensive tackle spots, you have right now Penei Sewell and Larry Borom are penciled in to be the starters. I wasn't necessarily sure that Borom would be a starter, but right now that's who's penciled in there, with Devin Cochran, Giovanni Manu, and Kobe Sorsdal as the backups. That is decent depth, but like I said, those are not guys I really want to see go in if these guys fall off. I would like to see the Lions bring in a young offensive tackle. The offensive guards, we have Tate Ratledge and Chris Mahogany coming back as the starters in 2026, with Juice Scruggs and Miles Frazier being the backups, and the reserve being Michael Neese and Mason Miller. I do like that. I like all six of those guys right there. And in the center spots, you have newly signed Cade Mays as a starter, with Seth McCollin as the backup. So on the offense, to me, the weakest point where I would like to see more depth would be tight end and offensive tackle. Everything else seems to be pretty much in play. Now we will move on to the defense. The interior defensive line, you have Alin McNeil and Talik Williams going into his second year as the starters, with Levi Oruzariki, Micah Wingo, and Chris Smith as the backups. I would like to see another defensive tackle added, maybe even bring in DJ Reader back, as we talked about, if they can get him back for the money. That's the edge. Now, this is the driest position right now on the defense. You have starters, Aiden Hutchinson, and as of right now, Ahmad Hassanin, who didn't play at all in 2025 as the starters, with Tyler Lacey as the backup. I'm gonna, be straight. I think they need to get at least 4 more guys on the edge. You need to need to trade and get an edge, get a guy early in the first round or maybe even the second round who's a can't miss edge, and you definitely need some young backups here. I mean, I think you can. There's just like the Philadelphia Eagles showed us, you cannot have enough pass rushers. 3 is not going to cut it. They need about 6 or 7. So so Brad has some work to do on the edge. Moving on to the linebackers. Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez as your starters, with Trevor Nowalski, who they also brought back as your backup. They need about 2 more guys here. In my opinion, you need another backup, and you need a guy who can. I know the Lions don't usually have 3 linebackers on the field at one time, but you need a guy who can push Malcolm Rodriguez, who can kind of be that wheel linebacker if that's where he's going to play, like Alex Anzalone did. They really need another Alex Anzalone type of run stopper, if you will, as other linebacker. So that's another position on the defense where Brad Holmes needs to do some work. The cornerback position, starters, DJ Reed and Tyrion Arnold. Tyrion Arnold, who is coming off of just an okay year. The backups as of right now are Rock Ya-Sin and Enos Rakestraw. Now, here's the thing. Enos Rakestraw really has not played in 2 years. So this will actually be his 3rd year. So if you don't bring in any more depth, you're going to put a lot on Enos Rakestraw to be a nickel or dime corner. And Khalil Dorsey is a decent, reserve, but he also adds on special teams and the kick and punt return game. And Nick Whiteside, had a couple of decent moments in 2025, but I would like to see at least another corner get brought in. Like pass rushers, you can't have enough corners. Then we're going to move to the safeties. This is another shaky position on the defense. Starters, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, both coming off of season-ending injuries. When will Brian Branch be back? Week 6, week 7, week 8, and Kirby Joseph, what's going on with his knee? Is it actually a career-ending injury, or will he bounce back and be the guy that he was pre-injury 2025? Right now, the backups are Thomas Harper and Loren Strickland, with Dan Jackson being the reserve. I would like to see another a little bit better, if you will, number 3 safety if they can get one. And special teams is pretty much locked up. Jake Bates at the kicker, Jack Fox the punter, and long snapper Hogan Hatton. So Lions fans, what do you think Brad Holmes' plan is? I mean, you see this depth chart that I just presented in front of you. On offense, in my opinion, tight end and offensive tackle needs work. On the defensive end needs a lot of work, followed by linebacker, and I'm going to say at least another corner and safety. So right now, we're just trying to figure out, what is Brad Holmes' plan? Is he trying to get this team all the way to the big game, or are they quietly making this a rebuild year and trying to bounce back for 2027? I'm not sure, but I would like your thoughts on it. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking Lions football. Give us your thoughts. Until next time, peace.